Welcome back to the channel. We just missed a Saturday episode of Comics Aficionados. I basically had an internet outage all day. It absolutely sucked. But we are here today on Mother's Day to celebrate mothers and talk about DC Comics' new publishing strategy. Is it pure genius or ineptitude? And here to talk to me about that is Doc. How you doing, Doc?
Well, if I was selling things, they'd probably be selling better than DC, and I'd probably not be lying about whether or not my new strategy is really anything different than my old strategy.
Well, it's not DC lying, it's CBR lying. It's their article where they're talking about DC has come up with this ingenious strategy that's really just copying what Manga is doing, according to CBR, where they're coming up with miniseries for characters that maybe aren't A-listers. And if there's some interest in the miniseries, they'll extend it out into an ongoing. Has DC Comics never, ever produced miniseries of their characters and then potentially extended them out? We've only seen that in the 70s and 80s, and certainly even recently.
Yeah, for the most part, this doesn't really seem like they're treading any new ground here. They are not exactly reinventing the goddamn wheel.
This is what they had to say. The first Dawn of DC book to receive this sort of expansion is Green Arrow from Joshua Williamson and Sean Isaacs. This comic was originally only going to be 6 issues long, but due to the tremendous amount of pre-orders, it was expanded to twice that amount. Given the positive reaction to the series' first issue and the fact that it reunites fan favorite Arrow family characters, it's highly likely that said 12th issue won't be the end. It's actually somewhat surprising that a character as well known and popular as Green Arrow would only be given a miniseries, but DC's seeming intentions make that a bit more logical. DC would be wise to ensure that a majority of its bigger properties can sell monthly titles. The fact that they didn't have an ongoing Green Arrow series is just plain stupid and inept on the part of DC Comics, that they couldn't find someone to tell a halfway decent Green Arrow story.
Green Arrow is, I guess he would be on par with about a, Moon Knight, in that he could generally handle an ongoing. When interest wanes, you cancel it for a year and then you relaunch it. It's not a big deal. CBR here is acting like it's this big shock and revelation that when you launch a new title, it has decent pre-orders, especially for...
Well, and they're acting like Green Arrow is the Signal, some character with no fan interest, that doesn't have buzz, that didn't have like 5 seasons of a television show recently on the CW network and stuff like that. That was really popular. They only named it the Arrowverse after the character. It was actually really stupid that they didn't have an ongoing that kind of tied into what they were doing there the entire time. And they're acting like this. They're putting it up there like, wow, it's just shocking that Green Arrow, a popular character that has a good fan base, is actually selling the #1 issue of a comic series. It's like, this is expected.
And the fact that he actually is more popular in like the cultural zeitgeist makes it even less shocking, that he's able to have decent numbers on a relaunch book that,
plus it's DC in 2023. There's like 50 different covers on that thing with a bunch of different variant artists that people like.
Oh God, yeah, because they've just entirely copied Marvel's homework on the variant schemes. Now they're just acting like it's a giant surprise and that it really caught them out of nowhere. This should have been expected. Now I understand they're taking a cautious approach in not jumping immediately to an ongoing. All they were doing was just avoiding embarrassing themselves by the pre-orders being lackluster, getting canceled 6 months in because of low sales. That's all they're doing here.
Well, plus Josh Williamson is writing a lot at DC. Maybe they want to keep his workload a little light, and they didn't want to commit him to something longer than 6 issues unless it was a big hit, which actually makes sense. This is what they've been doing, and this is what can be expected out of Green Arrow. This ain't the goddamn Signal. This isn't a speedy solo series. This is Green fucking Arrow, one of their flagship characters. Then CBR does this really weird take where they're trying to compare what DC are doing now to what Manga are doing, as if they're learning something from the Manga method and applying it to DC Comics. This is what they said. The biggest competitor for DC Comics wouldn't be rival comic publishers such as Marvel or Image, but rather localized manga that have corresponding anime adaptations. These titles have absolutely trounced American comic books in terms of sales, though not all manga are winners back in Japan. The manga industry is particularly ruthless, and titles that fail to gain traction are summarily ended. DC now seems to be employing a similar concept for their B and C list heroes, and it may just pay off. First off, the concept that DC's biggest competitor is Manga is laughable on itself. They don't even sell nearly as much as Marvel let alone anywhere near the sales of manga. Like just the awareness of manga and the characters and stories that they're doing is just, it blows everything DC's doing away, especially in the comic books themselves. And they're not learning anything from manga. We'll talk about one of the examples that they put in the article here, but it's pretty laughable here. And I don't think they're learning anything. Otherwise, they would have a competent digital comic book strategy by now.
You know, claiming that DC's chief rival is manga is like saying that the New York Yankees' chief rival is my little cousin's T-ball team. They're beating the ever-loving hell out of them, and it's not even a contest. I mean, it is amusing here that I'm getting to see them, CBR actually admitting that manga has been trouncing American comics for years after pretending like it hasn't been happening. But that's neither here nor there. The fact is, this strategy is not unique to manga. This is the strategy that the American comic book industry has been doing for as long as I've been alive, and long as I've been reading. The original Punisher series started as a mini-series that just kept going. The Transformers comic was a mini-series that was successful enough that it just kept going. There's a million examples of these. Acting like this is some new publishing strategy. All this is if manga's been doing this, I don't have the best manga knowledge.
Manga is very ruthless. If you come out with a story and it doesn't pick up real quick and you don't get a fan base, they drop you.
So if manga's doing it as kind of like they're testing the waters, and then whatever doesn't sell gets canceled, guess what? All they're doing is copying what the American comic book industry did in the 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s. This is just them copying the copy of what they were doing in the first place.
The American comic book publishing industry actually started this, but they veered away from it when they decided that these new characters that they were developing couldn't fail, even if they didn't sell.
Once the publishers stopped listening to the reaction of the readers and started to try to dictate what would be popular to the readers, that's where the American comic book industry went off the rails. And the thing was, it's not that hard. All they have to do is just keep throwing stuff at a wall. I get that some people have a financial or ego, stake in the success of some of these characters, but for every one Spider-Man, there's 35 fucking Paste Pot Pete's that do not stick.
They try to talk about like another example from DC, and it absolutely blows up right in their faces because it's the exact opposite of the point that they're trying to make here, Doc. This is what they say at the end of the article from CBR. Falling into a similar category is teen hero Jamie Reyes' Blue Beetle. Since he's soon to receive a theatrical movie, DC published a recent miniseries titled Blue Beetle Graduation Day that features parallel elements to the film. This is now being followed up by another upcoming series in the same vein, allowing for another jumping on point for new readers. Its final sales will provide DC a clear view of whether the character has gotten over with readers. If both or either succeed, it might be worth investing in Jamie even more. Well, we're coming to the end of Graduation Day, and guess what? On its 5th issue, it didn't even rank in the top 200. On its 4th issue, it barely made it into like the top 175. Yet they're doing another series, Doc, because they don't care that it failed.
Yeah, I mean, I thought this whole brilliant publishing strategy was about only selling and greenlighting things that work and that are proven sales winners. Well, you got a proven sale loser in this Jamie Reyes Blue Beetle Graduation Day miniseries. So your way of showing that you're really all in on this new publishing strategy is by completely abandoning it immediately whenever the thing you want to get over doesn't get over. Hey, look, it's not our fault that you decided to publish Graduation Day like 4 or 5 months, 6 months before the Blue Beetle movie came out. So that
they put Josh Trujillo on the book. That guy's not going to sell anything. It's the same with Harley Quinn Eat, Bang, Kill Tour with T. Franklin. It's supposedly a really popular show on HBO Max. It's the Harley Quinn thing that they've got going on now. They give a comic book series. They hire T. Franklin to write the damn thing. It doesn't sell anything. No one cares. Everyone finds it revolting that actually did read it. What happens? Do they listen to the readers? Do they go, you know what? No one really liked this. No, they just greenlit another one because they're idiots. They're inept.
If you're going to go in with a publishing strategy, go in with the publishing strategy, both feet. Don't just do it whenever it sounds convenient for you. oh, well, we need to make sure Green Arrow can totally sell as an ongoing. We're going to take this real cautious approach. But Jamie fucking Reyes, a guy that has never sold a goddamn comic in his existence, that just so happens to have a movie coming out, when this next upcoming Jamie Reyes sale or book fails to sell, you know what they're going to do to follow their brilliant publishing strategy of only things that sell work? They're just going to greenlight another one, because that's
Absolutely.
what they do.
You know why they did a Green Arrow 6-issue miniseries? At least that's what they announced. You know why, Doc? Because that gets you back to the number one issue faster, so you can do more variant covers and get your stupid sales bump that means nothing anymore as far as the popularity of the character or the publisher. I'm just saying that's not the strategy. They want the ability to reset the book as many times as possible in a short amount of time as possible. It just so happens the sales of Green Arrow #1 were much better than they anticipated, so they extended out a year, and we're hoping that maybe they can get an ongoing out of it.
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, you're treading exactly zero new ground with this publishing strategy, and all you're doing...
I don't even think it's their publishing strategy.
No,
Doc.
it's
It
not.
just happens to have happened.
Yes, look, it's not a publishing strategy, it's a PR campaign.
Speaking of DC Comics' actual publishing strategy, they recently talked to comic book retailers at Comic Pro, the big retailer summit that they do. And they talk about what they were doing and their plans to bring back lapsed readers, people like you, people like me, people that have had enough with DC Comics. This stuff was about as stupid as you could possibly imagine, and why nobody is coming back to DC Comics anytime soon. If you haven't seen this video, definitely check it out right here. There's also a link in the video description.